Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting at 7:35 on January 11th. And we will do the pledge and then start our meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Who is playing clerk tonight or anything? Nobody's doing anything.
No, Mayor, can I ask that you turn on your microphone?
It
is on.
It is on.
Oh, now I can hear you. Thank you.
I'm not sitting close enough, so
Thank you.
okay, we're all set to go. All right, we'll start the meeting, work session. Am I too close to this? Because you guys fixed all the mics now and
Back off it just a little bit, but you're good.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, great.
Guys got me so trained to be yelling into the mic. Now I have to totally readjust. Okay. So, do we have any announcements or anything? I know it's a work session. Do we have any announcements? Nothing on this side? Okay, first of all, I think Deputy Mayor, Lopez is coming in through Zoom remotely.
At your service.
Thank you. So I want to just a couple of things. I was asked to just let the community know that on Sunday, 5 p.m., there's an interfaith Martin Luther King Day program at Star of Bethlehem. I don't know when it ends, but it starts at around 5 p.m. Looking forward to that. This morning, I was at a press conference to kick off Eagle Fest, one of my favorite things. Yes, I know it's Croton, so do not text or email me that we stick to Ossining. We try to do that, but this really involves a lot of the river towns. And we do have actually an Eagle's Nest here in Ossining. You hang out at the river, and our first graders from Brookside, from the Ossining School, were there this morning to learn about eagles with the eagle named Montana, who was really amazing. And they loved it, and everybody had a good time, and the county executive was there and all, and it's really the kickoff for the Eagle Fest, February 4th, rain date or snow date, I should say, February 5th, which I hope not to use, at Croton Point. So hope everyone that can make it out there does. I'm going to definitely be there, so I hope you guys join. All right, we are ready to roll.
Good evening.
Hello.
First on our agenda tonight, we have Joe Apicella from McWestern Development. Mr. Apicella is here tonight to present the project and pilot for Crescent Manor, which is an all affordable senior project with a mixed use component, retail component that is proposed for our the former Sun Valley Nursery lot. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Apicella. Welcome.
Thank you. Going to move this up.
Sure.
Hopefully I don't damage it. Good evening to all of you, in particular, the mayor and the Honorable Board of Trustees, and of course, the village manager, Karen, and the assistant village manager. My name is Joe Apicella. I'm the managing director of McWestern Development and a partner in our project here that we refer to as Crescent Manor. We have gone with this project through the approval process and the community process over the last 24 months very successfully. I have to share with my fellow developers. Back up. There you go. With my fellow developers, that it was an excellent experience here in the village of Ossining with both the zoning board and the planning board. They moved quite quickly and very succinctly, and we're very pleased with that process. We met with the community. The community was extraordinarily supportive of this project. And I think as a result, we were able to get a better product at the end of the day that included the lighting that the community so desired, the sidewalks, and the landscape architecture that was really important to them. And we're happy that we are completed with that approval process. What's before you tonight, and Karen has indicated to us, we're going to keep it to 10 minutes. We want to give you a very brief presentation of what this project looks like and is, and go through the payment in lieu of taxes program, and happy to answer any questions you may have. I am joined by Ronald Schulman, who is our project analyst who handles all of the HFA and HPD financing for our company. And he's an expert in financing affordable housing, and in particular, this 62 and older project program, which is a unique new program offered by the state of New York as part of the governor's initiative that we heard about yesterday in our State of the State address. We're also joined by Bridget Gibbons, there to my left, who's the Executive Director of Economic Development for the County Executive's Office, and a member of the Westchester County Industrial Development Agency Board, and she was present during the IDA process with Westchester County. If we can go through slide 1 and screen share. Right, this is just merely a rendering of the project that was completed. Again, your architectural review board played a huge role in how that project was finally determined over time. Continue. You'll notice this is a 74 unit project. And it's a step down project, 3.5 story building with parking below, ample parking, 2 levels of on-site parking. There's 79 parking spaces. This project entertains people who are at 40, 50, and 60% of average median income. It's a very defined group. Hence, there is a higher risk when it comes to underwriting, which may be distinctly different from other projects, even for other affordable housing projects. This project also has 1,700 square feet of retail. We deal with a lot of national retailers, 7-Eleven, Chipotle, Starbucks, because we are a vast company based here in Westchester. So we're looking at the possibility of a nice upscale coffee shop at that corner location. We think it would do well in that location because it's part of the gateway into the downtown here, and also for the residents, it would be quite proximate for them. So any service-oriented kind of retail, we're going to look to focus on that 1,700 square feet and get that done. And again, we have the wherewithal to do that. We have a vast track record of building affordable housing, and in fact, affordable senior housing. We have another project in Yonkers, approximately 60 units in Yonkers as well, that's been up and operating for many, many years successfully. We also have 1,800 square feet of what we refer to as flex space, and that could be something that we work with you all on in terms of how we program that space. Our idea was creating some sort of multi-generational facility there for the seniors, and maybe with the Department of Education, with Ossining, the Ossining Board of Ed programming that space. We're not looking to make a significant return on investment in that space, but rather have it be part of a community contribution, contribution to the community, so that we can make this project more viable. This building will be a LEED sustainable building. This is going to be an all electric building with heat pumps and the like. So this is going to be sustainable. The materials we use are always sustainable. The projects we build are indistinguishable from market rate. We don't want our buildings to look any different from market rate or luxury housing, and that's what we pride ourselves on. Next. And this is more information on the fact that we will be doing fossil fuel heat pump technology, as I mentioned, 100% LED lighting, high performance windows with U factors and SHGC less than 30, organic cleaning, pest control practices, site-wide no smoking policy, toxic-free building materials, and high performance right-size smart mechanical systems. And that's very important to us. That's who McQuestion is as a company. We are a MWPE, a woman-owned company. My partner is the primary owner, and I'm a secondary owner in this project. And so we try to do things right-sized for the community that we're developing in. Next slide, please. We looked at the project impact. We're anticipating a closing in the third quarter of this year. Our application is into HFA, and we're hopeful to get in the pipeline as soon as possible. We want to see construction commence immediately thereafter. We'll be ready to pull a permit. We'd like construction to be completed by 2025. We have a great team, CM, construction management team that comes in, works with the community. I've already spoken to all the area businesses and residents and let them know that we're a point of contact during construction. If they have an issue, whether it be noise, light, odors of any kind, we are there. We walk them through the process. And we do that on all our projects, including our recent high rise in Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, and elsewhere here in Westchester. Job is going to create 250 full-time equivalent jobs during construction, and then 26 post-construction full-time jobs. Next, please. Here's the pilot. If you can read it, you have better glasses than I do. But essentially, when we look at the economics of this project will have, because of the nature of it and its exclusions, these are 0 school-age children. There will be no school-age children to be educated in this particular project. In addition to that, if we look at the current assessed values and taxes, village, town, and county taxes, we are paying today $19,577.96. And in the first year pilot, we will be quadrupling that to $80,000. In addition to that, we have a significant environmental cleanup here. This is a brownfield cleanup site. As you could imagine, it was a nursery. There are oil tanks and a whole bunch of other things, metals and the like that we need to clean up, which we will endeavor to clean up at our cost and risk. But what that program does, the brownfield program, is indemnify this site going forward against any future claims. So it's an insurance policy forever. So we believe in building sites this way. We build and hold our projects. We don't sell them. We don't flip them. If you look at our history, all of our projects are 20 and 30 years old that we have owned and managed. We manage the projects. We recruit for the projects. We envision using the local development corporation. I believe it's IFCA. We've had conversations with them. We want to make this part of the community. We're not a developer coming in from outside and wanting to have our way. We want to be part of the community, and we want to give back and do the best we can in that regard. This pilot has been vetted with the County of Westchester's special consultant, financial consultant, and he and she have gone back and forth and fully vetted the requirements and necessity for this level of pilot in order to qualify for the underwriting that you will see we will get into in a moment. And that's where we came out. The County of Westchester's IDA board unanimously approved this level of funding, given all of the circumstances of this project. I could tell you that from the time we applied to the state for this project until now, there is a gap. There's a funding gap even with this pilot as is, because interest rates have gone up significantly. And to that end, we will be applying for a fund that the County of Westchester is putting together for just that purpose, to shore up affordable housing that has a gap in its financing from when it was conceived until now, because we have about $1.5 million gap today because interest rates went up so precipitously in the last 6 months. So we'll be applying to the County of Westchester for that funding. I believe, and Bridget, you can correct me, there's a RFP that Len Grunfeld is working on that will go out, a request for proposals for this funding, and we hope to get those dollars. this is not unique to this project. All of these projects are in need of additional financing because they're so deeply discounted for, in this case, for senior citizens. But that's why we are where we are, to help you to understand how we got here. There is very thin margins in affordable, let alone senior housing. And this was the best we felt we knew we could do. Ron Schulman, you are there. Do you want to talk more to this?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. If we can go to the next couple of slides, we'll run through it.
Mhm.
Good evening, everyone. So this is, I'm sorry that it's very small print, but I'll do a quick summary. The project has 33 studios. Thank you. 33 studios and 41 bedrooms. And as Joe said, these are senior apartments. So these are apartments where the seniors move in, and we basically pay for everything, pay for all the expenses of living there. The rents are broken down between 40, 50, and 60%. And the reason we do that is to capture as many different income groups from the community, different households. It could be a single person or a couple. And so there's 16 of the apartments will be at 40% of AMI, 16 at 50%, and 41 at 60%. Now the rents, if you scroll down a little bit on the screen to the right, the net rent that the tenant pays, if you keep going down a little bit further, $916 and $983 for the studio apartments, $1,158 and $1,243 for the, those are the 40%. And then the 50% are $1,158 and $1,243. And then the 60% are $1,401 and $1,503 net rents. So those rents are very affordable, and they're basically offering a tenant, you know, to live in this brand new building, all the services that Joe mentioned, all the utilities paid for with that fixed rent, which would go up at a nominal rate. Now, the next slide will show you a cash flow pro forma. If we get to the next slide, oh, sorry, no, go back to, yeah, sorry, my bad. So this is the maintenance and operating costs of the building. Not that you guys need to get into all these details, but I just want you to know, to run a building like this is about, anytime you look at affordable housing, it's around $8,000 a unit per year to run one of these buildings. And these underwriting expenses are what HFA or any housing authority would tell us to use to be conservative, to make sure that we have enough money in the budget to pay for everything and provide the services, not only heat and electric, but all the other services that are provided, including broadband services and supportive services to the tenants as needed. And the budget is you know, acceptable to HFA. When we go to the next slide, and that's the cash flow pro forma, that shows basically in year one, and we're using that $79,000 number in taxes in year one, the project can't pay for any more taxes. So we've maxed it out, and it's just proven out, because we have to pay for all the operating expenses, the interest on the mortgage and the principal on the mortgage, and then there's second mortgages and so on. By the time you're done with paying the mortgages and the expenses, you have, you know, the first year is $65,000 free cash flow out of this whole budget, which starts at over $1 million. As Joe was saying, excuse me, there is a thin margin in running senior affordable housing. So we have to be very careful that the project is above water in year one and stays above water for 15 to 30 years. So again, just wanted to show you the nitty gritty of the numbers, because the $79,000 in the first year is baked into that first year, and then it goes up according to the pilot agreement that was approved by the IDA. So Joe, that's basically the presentation there.
On that point, this is a good opportunity for me and the developer to this board to apologize for the timing of this, because we should have been here a lot sooner, and I'll take full responsibility for that. The coordination was not there. There was no malintent, I assure you, with all due respect. It was just not coordinated properly, and I should have known better. I've done too much of these jobs not to remember to come in sooner in this process. And so to that extent, I apologize to the Village Board of Trustees and the mayor and the manager for that matter. Is there anything more, Ron, we need to go through on a technical?
No, I think we've summed it up. You know, again, just want to remind everybody, this is a structured finance deal with, you know, those senior units, fixed rents. The rents go up a certain percentage every year, And the expenses, of course, will inflate by inflation. And then the pilot is in there, and the pilot is accounted for with the agreed upon pilot payments during the term of the pilot.
I'll conclude by saying that of all the projects I've done over the years, I've done many of them here in Westchester. Most of you, many of you will know which ones they are. They're quite notable throughout White Plains, New Rochelle. This is a perfect project for a perfect site. It just is. And I don't say that to be self-serving, it just is. We're reusing a contaminated site. We're right on a major thoroughfare. The residents can utilize and create economic development in this area, be about 180, 190, maybe 200 residents at the end of the day. It'll create the vibrance back and forth to the downtown that I think you desperately want and need. It'll create a sense of community in what is a bit of a dead zone up there as you're going up that hill. I know the area very well. And I think and again, it's so unique to have a project welcomed like that by the community. And I think it's a great opportunity for all of us. We have the economic wherewithal to do it, of course. You know our track record. We have the team to do it. We're ready to go. And with your help, anything we can do to help to move this forward, we're here to do. And we want to see this project happen. And I think the many seniors in this area that want to age in place and not have to go out of town as they get older because they can't afford it, this is a unique opportunity for them, because you see those rents are very affordable. But I thank you. And if you have any questions, we're here to answer them. We'll stay as long as you like.
Thank you. Can you put it back on the, so just so for the public record, we all have the presentation actually in an email that was sent to us. We do request that people to present from the board make an effort, which the developer did, to send us a presentation in advance so we can look at it. So when we're looking at our phones, laptops, we're looking at the details. So I know in the presentation, the print is small, but with us, we're actually looking at it. So we can go back to everybody. Bridget, welcome. Nice to see you. And it's nice to have the county here to also be able to help us through some of this. So thank you for coming in. I do have a few questions. Generally, I let the trustees speak and then ask the questions, but I have a very specific questions, and then there'll be a couple of others that want to go and delve into the numbers. So I'm really excited that you're a highly experienced developer. That's very important to this village. We've had experiences with developers who frankly aren't as funded and experienced. I think I met you and your partner just as an introductory with no promises for the future, that it is a woman minority-owned business, which is always welcomed. It's the first time I'm seeing the FTEs, and just so people understand, that actually doesn't mean 26 people. What FTEs means is a full-time equivalent. So if somebody works 10 hours, it's 1 point something day of work. It also doesn't guarantee that they're all from this area. It just guarantees that it does create employment, which is great. So I want to be clear, because this is a public recorded and people will be viewing this. So there were some words that you used. I just want to get some clarification. We're excited that this will not be a burden to our school system. These are great things. We are thrilled that a place that's been empty for a number of years is having something built on it. Also, I think it's good. I think the demographics in Westchester, there is 3 major legs that have transpired in Westchester, and in Ossining the same, which is that there's been an increase in folks who are aging in place for a whole slew of reasons, and they really do follow all socioeconomic levels. Wealthy people who've downsized houses, who want to stay in the area, people who can't afford to leave and go somewhere else because their families who take care of them are here, all sorts of reasons. But there's been a growth. There's been a growth in young families, which this does not affect, but there's been a growth in young families, mostly due to COVID, I think, but also because we have housing from from apartments to condos to co-ops to small houses to large houses. So there's a lot of opportunity here for all different incomes and sizes. It's one of the most affordable communities already. We have lots of affordable housing that's been built. We're in the process of adding to that. So this is very much in line. So that gets me personally very excited. And also, I think the board is very happy about affordable in that area for the senior, I hate calling them senior citizens, but whatever the title is. So I think it hits a lot of marks. But our role actually tonight isn't about all the great things. It's actually to ask questions on behalf of our community. So there's just some words that you put out there
Mhm.
that I want to get some clarity on for the community as well as the board. You use words like I spoke to to the community and the community was welcoming. So I appreciate that the zoning or planning, whatever, that you agree with me that they're actually great. But who exactly in the community, in that neighborhood, have you been speaking to?
Oh, all of our neighbors to the, let's see, south, the residential neighborhood to the south, that borders on both of our streets. Of course, we border on two sides, but all of those neighbors to the rear, we've been speaking to.
How
They-
have you been doing that? Have you been
Oh,
sending letters to them? Like,
They sent letters in early on in the development process. They had
Oh,
certain concerns. And I've spoken to them on the phone. They had a representative an unofficial representative that
who's that?
I forget the gentleman's name.
How many letters did you get?
Oh, maybe 3, 4, 5 letters.
Okay.
Was that the group from Watson Avenue?
Watson Avenue, yes, sir.
So the
Sorry, I'm
definition
not so
for,
good with name. I don't remember
that's
the
okay,
name.
I'm not either. I'm lucky if I remember mine, it's fine. But it's not a test. This is, I just want to get some clarity. So
Sure.
when you say we spoke to the community and all our neighbors, you're talking about the process that's in place, the
Mhm.
legal process in place, and you received 3 to 5 letters from that community.
I'd say about five, my memory is about 5 letters, but they went to the planning board and they're online. If you just pull it up on the planning board's website, you'll see their issues.
No, I get that.
And
but-
what we did was initially, which is how you're supposed to handle these things. Initially, we had a confrontation of issues. We sat down with them and we said, how can we resolve this? What's important to you? Well, it's our views. What can you do to mitigate the view impacts? And we came up with a landscape plan to the rear of the site, and they were very, very happy. They withdrew their opposition. To me, that's an extraordinarily good outcome. The neighbors on the business side, our friends in the music shop that I know well, they know my wife and I know them. We spoke, and they had certain concerns as well. And we addressed their concerns, particularly during construction, and that's what
Right.
I was alluding to. They were concerned about how it would impact their business during the construction cycle. And I gave them certain assurances about the kinds of hands-on developers we would be and builders. Now, that's not to say it's going to be quiet and undisturbed. That's not how it goes. It's a construction site. But if we could have that communication, and if you know that on Tuesday at 2:00, there's going to be a drilling going on, then you can accommodate what you need to do. So it's a matter of communication. And so from that standpoint, that's what I mean when I say we met with the community
Okay.
and we spoke to, remember, it was during COVID for the most part. So we weren't meeting in a room. We were online and on mostly online and Zoom.
Okay, so just to be clear, you went through the process that you're supposed to go through. You received 3 to 5 letters. When you describe the community and one business, which is next door, the Riscos are next door.
Riscos, right?
Okay, I spoke to them the other day. So that's what I'm trying to understand. So
Mhm.
that's the total sum data points for
That's
the
right.
community interaction. Okay.
Correct.
And that was my next point also with the businesses. So,
I don't mean to interrupt, Mayor, but there were several public hearings that were duly noticed as well.
understood.
Okay.
Right, but when people hear this, our job is not to explain the process. Our job is actually to think about our constituents. And when people use words like community and businesses and our neighbors, they're imagining that you went to the businesses in the area, but that's not really how the process works. So you followed the legal process because you have to follow the legal process. And you did it. You did
Mhm.
what you're supposed to do. But I just want to be clear when people hear words like that they understand the data points. And they're just because we will be getting calls as you start, and you know this, and say, I didn't know this was happening. When did it? When did this happen? Why didn't anybody tell me? And they're going to look at this video and they're going to say, oh, okay, but they never spoke to me and I have a business there for 25 years. And we'll say, well, you did have an opportunity, it was noticed, but this is sort of the scope that you did, not more, not less. I think that's a fair statement.
Okay.
Right? We'll go through the numbers in a bit because the pilot is of grave concern to this board. The other piece that is, and as I said, I think it's great that this is also not putting a burden on our school system. So I think that's, and all the other good things that you're doing. I always have, so that you know, I always have concern about parking. When you look at the numbers, I sort of lost you at some point when you said it'll be affecting about 180 people. So I probably heard you wrong because you're building or you're attempting to build a certain number of units. I don't know how you got to 180.
It's
Okay,
70.
It's an open meeting.
They are 74 units,
Right,
one of which is a supers unit, which
Great.
is a 2-bedroom. So we look at an average on the 2-bedroom units. Sometimes we get 2 to 2.5 people per
Okay.
2-bedroom. So when you do the math, it's approximately, I gave a ballpark
Uh-huh.
of about 170, what I say, 170, 180 people, which is a ballpark. Now you have the people who work there, people, the porters and others. So it's a people who clean the facility. So it's going to be an active facility. So to say between 150 and 180 people as a result of this in terms of economic development, I think that's fair.
Okay. So now I understand how you got to the number. It's not
Mhm.
actually residents that you meant 180.
Not
I actually
totally
thought I heard you
residents.
wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I'm going to ask the village manager is we're going to discuss some of the numbers maybe tonight, but the reason we're having this meeting, and I thank you for explaining to the public and the apology, which, stuff happens. I mean, it's not a big deal. The bigger issue there was that you went forward a little faster and we weren't involved. The village, as you know, always has to be involved with anything involving new buildings and construction, everything else. It isn't enough just that the planning and zoning or whatever committee you went in front of, but actually that the Board of Trustees be fully and well informed. And only after they're fully and well informed, and only after they actually agree to something, do people go to the county and say, the board was informed and they agreed to what we have. So being informed is not enough. There has to be some agreement. That actually never happened. So we're meeting today to get more clarity about all the details because the county actually, or the state or whatever, doesn't actually overrule on local government, because I think the county appreciates that we are partners with them in making things happen. Anything, whether it's the parks, whether it's the roads, whether anything that their hands touch and our hands touch means that we work as partners, that one doesn't override the other. And their position is usually that the taxes that they talk about is the county piece of it, not the village piece of things. That one government doesn't report to the other, and you know this. And I'm speaking to you now because I want to get clarification. Again, people look at these videos that we record and then they have questions later on. And I like to say, look at the video at 8 o'clock at night. You'll see it on the video and you could look and you can understand what we were talking about. And so that's one of the other reasons, because you do understand that. And I do appreciate you coming in today and that you brought somebody with you. So the numbers have to be looked at. I'm not an expert in reading pilots. Other people might be smarter than I am. I'm never the smartest person in any room I'm in. But I'm also usually pretty knowledgeable about this stuff because I've been sitting in a chair for a few years now. We've had a lot of people with pilots come in front of us. We're going to have to look at the pilot. We are not, and we don't and shouldn't on behalf of our constituents, accept numbers at face value, even if consultants have looked at them. We're going to ask the village manager to have her staff, go over things with a fine tooth comb, make some recommendation, the attorney. We might call the county, ask some questions, who knows, right? So just to let you know and to let the board know as I look through this, that we are going to have those numbers looked at so that we better understand them, so that we can explain to our constituents what those numbers really mean, because some of them will actually sit there and look at them. because it's going to be of interest to them. So those were just, I think, some of my questions and comments. You mentioned a gap that everybody's going through. Probably a fair statement, but my husband and I also have a gap in our funding because we didn't expect interest rates. But that doesn't mean I expect anybody to subsidize that gap. And so we're also going to ask the village manager and her staff, and we'll also get advice from the county. Even affordable housing development is not an altruistic exercise, as far as I can understand it. Money is made on all structures and all development. It may take a few more years. You may need different escalation. There may be other rules that have to get changed, things that have to get done. But every developer that walks through here, whether it's affordable, market rate, or luxury, has a responsibility to be well-funded, experienced, which you guys are, check marks on both of those. But the taxpayers here in the village shouldn't be expected to subsidize development, to be honest with you. And we're going to try to figure out how to work together with you in the county. We understand the costs have gone up. They've gone up for everybody in every industry that I could tell. So it's not a given that these gaps aren't really gaps. They're estimations of costs. And did you want to ask a question? The supervisor from the town came and dropped by, not to embarrass you, Liz, but we have when we have people in the room, it's a work session, it's not legislation. So any questions, or you want to you'll hear it on, not to put you on the spot. I just, you've been here all day working.
I'm glad to see you're being thorough in your investigations. I look forward to looking at the numbers that the village takes a closer look at, and I hope you will copy me on that. And I'm very interested.
Thanks.
So thank you for all the
For
time
putting
you're
you on the
taking on
spot?
this. Absolutely. Know that I do peek in, Anyway.
Well, if you're
thank
still here, you had a very long day today.
Yes.
I think it's a supervisor's first week on the job, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe second week. So these are some of the thoughts that are going through, and I like to be very transparent about my thoughts. The word, listen, I was a liberal arts majors. The way people use words are always very interesting to me. I ever understand why developers speak in gaps, because every business has the cost of doing business. And nobody stays in business as long as you have, unless they make money at doing it. And you should make money. You should make money. Our constituents should benefit from everything that we do and we approve. Our only responsibility is to our constituents to make sure that we do the best we can in making sure that projects are built, the developers are good, that the structures stay and are built well enough to go for 5 to 6 to 7 decades, because that's what buildings are supposed to do, and that everybody benefits from it. And that's really all we're here to do. I'm going to let some of the other trustees also, I'm sure they have questions and comments. I'm just looking at my notes to see what I wanted to sort of talk about. So I think that's it for me. Anybody, do we want to start from the left, or?
I would like to go last.
You would like to go last. Okay. Do you have any questions or comments? For now, we're going to see, there's more on this, but do you have any? You're good. Okay. You want to go last? Questions or comments?
We've done pilots in the past on developments, I assume, right? How is this one different from past
We've done
pilots? How is this one different?
All pilots are specific to the type of project and the type of funding behind it. In all affordable projects, pilots are essentially, it's almost impossible to do an affordable project without a pilot. The pilot acts as a subsidy, and that subsidy allows the rents to be managed affordably for the term of the pilot. And often when we're working on projects funded by the state and the county, these projects are funded and guaranteed affordable, often in perpetuity, but usually a minimum of 30 to 50 years. So the benefit to the community, because the mayor's correct, is that there has to be a benefit. So there's a payment in lieu of taxes, there's also a benefit to the community in lieu of taxes in a sense. So with affordable housing, the benefit is that affordability. It's allowing residents to age in place. It's providing a measure of affordability to maintain socioeconomic diversity. And it helps when things, it helps prevent issues of people getting priced out of the areas that they live in. But to, the pilot, the mayor spoke about the process. The taxing entity, in this case, the village, and usually there's a conversation that happens where the property tax pilot portion of the pilot is negotiated in advance of going to the county. I would say that's probably the biggest difference in this instance. And while we've done it, there's a different order here. This is now the opportunity to have the discussion with the village. Subsequent to this meeting, we will be doing an analysis of an impact analysis on behalf of the village to look at the numbers closely so that we can really communicate to the constituents in our community what the benefit and what the benefit value proposition is of this and why we're giving the benefit in lieu of taxes.
This building will not just be open to the community, though. Is it going to be a lottery system like other?
It is.
And that's everybody throughout the tri-state area, isn't it?
Everybody.
No, Ron.
Or everybody who
Ron,
qualifies.
do you want to address how we're going to prioritize?
We have, excuse me, we have to follow the Housing Finance Agency, State of New York marketing guidelines. I don't have them in front of me, but I'm sure there's a set aside for the Village of Ossining.
I'd
And
like
then-
to talk to that. I actually do have information on that. Whilst in certain cases, there has been a set aside that has been challenged in court, so it's not always feasible. I want to be real clear here. The having worked in affordable housing in Ossining with buildings, with pilots, with buildings that have lottery systems, like any housing in the community, we don't get to say only certain people can live here. So the really important thing to know about this is while the main reason that you cannot specify people only from the community is because that lends itself to a level of discrimination, which is the opposite of what we want to do in an affordable housing project or any housing project for that matter. So while there is like any other apartment, like any other home, whoever can buy it or rent it, that doesn't mean that people in the community who need it don't benefit. So the affirmative action plan that is designed to engage as many people as possible who need it is based on advertising to those least likely to apply. That doesn't mean that people then decide to apply and preempt people from the community. In most cases, even though we cannot discriminate who lives in the housing, people from the community or people who want to live in the community or people who work in the community, people who want to stay in the community tend to disproportionately represent the people in a lottery system, or if it's first come, first serve. Usually I would imagine this would be a lottery. So, and then once that initial lottery period is done, then it's a regular waiting list. So over time, you actually do have a fairly significant amount of people in need in the community, and the likelihood of them, people in need of getting housing, that people who need housing, getting housing is greatly increased by having that housing exist in your community. But there is a really good reason why typically you are not allowed to acquire the subsidy funding if you narrow the pool of who can apply.
No, I was just trying to define community benefit, and sounded like it was kind of being implied that this would be housing for our community. It's not only for our community. So I just wanted to.
Well, just to be clear, none of the projects we do are only for the communities
Right,
in
no,
which
no.
we build them.
Right.
That would be counterintuitive, as Karen indicated, would be discriminatory. But I can give you empirical data that in New Rochelle and in Mount Vernon, our two most recent projects, that 75% of the residents that qualified, and that is required, the qualifications they must meet our income qualifications, credit worthiness, and the like for the varying levels of average median income
And age.
and age, of course. And if they don't meet that criterion, well, we have a management company that does this and that's certified with HFA to do it. If we don't do that and report correctly, we stand to lose our ability to do any more projects. So, but the fact of the matter is, it's going to be a huge benefit to the village, same way it was a huge benefit to Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, and elsewhere. And like I said, we can agree to disagree on numbers. I came here, to tell you what I feel, what I know. I know we need to make this project work. And we want to see it work. We don't want to see a hole in the ground a year from now. I don't think you do either. So we need to find a way to make it work. That's all I'll say to you.
Yeah, I don't know about the hole in the ground. That sounds a little weird, but so your point is that we oftentimes, when people hear the community, they think it's this community, that because they live here, they might get first dibs. That's actually not the case. It was just explained by both the village manager and the developer. It's open to anybody. It could be 100% no one from Austin, could be 100% all Austining. We don't know. But it's not a guarantee. I mean, theoretically, it's just not a guarantee. Do you have any
Not
other-
assisted living, it's
Independent.
independent living.
Mhm.
Okay. And did you say there were 2 bedrooms?
There are.
But a small number?
Ron, what's that breakout again?
Okay, we have,
Oh,
excuse me.
1.
No, these are studios and ones. There's 33 studios
Right.
and 41s. There's 1 2-bedroom for the superintendent.
Right,
the
okay,
super's
so
2
it's,
bedroom.
it's 1 bedroom, okay.
Yeah, I'd like to add one fact that we haven't discussed though for community benefits. When we're building affordable housing, as you folks know, this is economic a generator because there's 74 families living here, and let's just use a gross income of 50,000 multiplied by 74 is 3.5. Take any factor you want from that gross income that these people are going to be earning, and whatever 20%, whatever, spending the money mostly in the village of Austining, which is a community benefit because they will be buying goods and service in the village of Austining, and that is a community benefit. We've
Okay.
seen this on other affordable housing projects, as Joe mentioned, Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, Bronx, Yonkers, everywhere. When you repopulate or populate an area, people spend money on goods and services, and that's a benefit to the town or the village or the city.
We're not going to have, we've had this discussion with so many developers. I'm not having this conversation for the 10th and 15th time. It's affordable housing. This is a highly densely populated village, one of the most in Westchester County. So we're not going to go down that round, but I think you asked the questions that you had as far as what you wanted to ask. Deputy Mayor Lopez, because you're next, if you're able.
Thank you, Mayor. Willing and able. Happy to chime in. So thanks for coming in tonight. I have 3 questions and a semi-question. So the first question is, you mentioned this is independent living, but can you specify if there are any particular provisions for assisted living or memory care for residents?
No, this is not that. This is not a program for that. However, we're working with the non-for-profit. We've had conversations with them about the possibility of providing a la carte services to the residents through the non-for-profit, in this case, IFCA, to them where they would be a la carte services. They would pay as you go, could be the programs you've talked about, could be food programs, could be a wellness care and the like. So while this is not assisted living, we will be offering a pamphlet of services through the non-for-profit that would manage this in order to bolster people living in place, particularly people as they age.
Thank you. My colleagues that are on village staff will be looking at the details of the pilot that you proposed, but I'm curious to hear at a high level what you feel are the potential risks associated with the pilot program and how they will be mitigated.
Risks in what sense? I'm sorry.
So risks in terms of being able to meet the ensuring. So you mentioned, for example, how well with the changing interests, that's kind of changing our calculation. What kind of elements that are unforeseen at this point, anything like that, risks, might you be thinking about incorporating into the proposed pilot program?
Joe, I could take that
Yeah,
question.
Ron, I was going to kick
All
it
right,
to
Deputy Mayor, the project is, as you know, income restricted project. It only throws off so much cash flow, and then we have to pay the expenses, we have to pay the mortgage. And the taxes are built into this whole calculation. So why is the pilot what it is? It's the maximum that the project can pay. The only other way to pay more money is to ask HFA for more subsidy, which we're maxed out on. We've already maxed out on that. And remember, this is a tax credit project. So there's tax credit equity coming in to reduce the amount of debt because the project can only afford so much debt. There's no magic pill to say that this could pay more money for taxes unless you ask the state to go over their subsidy limit and give us more subsidy. That's the answer.
Thank
And
you.
I want to say we're happy to corroborate that with staff, or have your staff corroborate that with HFA, because this is not something we're asking for. We're looking for a windfall in any way, not at all. This goes to the issue of viability of the operation of the project. We're not going to commence construction on a project that we can't manage and operate that's going to go belly up in 5 years. I won't do it. We'll move on. So at the end of the day, this is about viability of the project. This is not about developer putting more money out of their pocket. It's operating expenses versus operating income.
Thank you. For those that haven't been tuning into the land use meetings in particular to hear the details of the brownfield cleanup, would love to hear a short version of why you chose the particular method of cleanup, and if there were any alternative methods that you were considering.
Both myself and my company have been utilizing, as so many other developers have. I think you have one here in the village using the brownfield program now, Bill Bolter. We use that program, Deputy Mayor, because from my standpoint, it's so effective in guaranteeing any future claims against contamination, both on-site and off-site to neighboring properties. So when I come onto this property, we talk about benefit. Not only am I cleaning up the site to build what I want to build, I'm cleaning up the site to protect the neighbors. And we help them to understand that, not by my words or by hyperbole, but by the facts. And having done 5 brownfield projects, including I wrote the for Harbor Square. I did the project there. I still received those reports that Marty Ginsburg built. Without that, but for that program, we have a whole pump and street system there as a result of the Con Ed DNAPL. I'm very familiar with it because I negotiated it down in Irving Place with Con Edison. That program, not only does it help you, it defers half of the cost, 50% of the remedial cost, but it also warranties, if you will, or indemnifies the site and the adjoining properties, sorry, against any future claims. So that's why we go there.
Thank you. The last sort of question is, we have a community that has a very large Spanish speaking contingency. Will you make a commitment to having information about your project published in Spanish, both as it's being constructed and then after it's available as well?
We have 2 major developments, one under construction in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and another over on Van Sinderen in East New York. So we realize the importance of working with the minority groups in that area and the local non-for-profits. And we put out all of our literature and our advertisement for the rental units in both English and Spanish.
Thank you. I recognize that you've acknowledged that in an ideal
Sorry,
world.
Omar, 1 second. So the answer to that is for Austining, you're committing to do it. You said what you've done.
Absolutely, yes.
And that you're able to do it, but that you will in fact do it
Absolutely.
for Austin.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Omar, sorry.
No problem. You've mentioned that in an ideal world, you would have come to the village board of trustees first
Earlier.
before
Mhm.
the county. I appreciate you acknowledging that it's important for us to be able to have this kind of interaction with folks that are looking to build in our community. And America is the land of second chances. And so here's your second chance. Thank you very much. That's all for me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. So that leaves you. Sir?
How much time do we have?
Literally not much longer. So, and this will not be our last meeting with the
Alright, no
developer, and
problem.
the
So
staff
I'll-
will be speaking to him as well.
I'll make it as quick as possible and as nice as I can. With this, some of the stuff you already heard from some of my colleagues. Obviously, there's a frustration, and how, it's, we were just talking about early today, is sometimes people think that it's better ask for forgiveness than for permission. And, that's what just kind of happened today. So let me ask you this, just a little bit, just in general stuff. You say you've been doing this, you have different developments throughout Westchester County and looks like New York City as well. How many of those projects you have done pilots for here in Westchester?
Almost all of them.
Okay, so what is the steps that you took when you did the pilots at that time?
Yes, the steps would be to apply in those cases, with one exception. It was a single application to either the county IDA or the New Rochelle IDA. And in the case of the city of New York, we are inherently entitled to a payment in lieu of taxes program. So it's usually a one-stop shop, which is why we kind of missed this step, because we usually go to if it's a Westchester County IDA in the case of White Plains. In all the other cases, it's the local municipality. It's Yonkers. I just negotiated a IDA pilot for our project on Main Street in Yonkers, Main Street in Riverdale. We're building a 10-story, 76-unit building there that was recently approved. So we usually go directly to the municipality. So this was a little bit, it was just forgotten.
So
There was no malintent, no one was looking to, no one's looking to avoid you,
So
because that's impossible, and I know
can
that.
I ask my next question?
Yes.
Thank you. So my next question is, and those municipalities that you have gone to, what is the length of the pilot that you have asked for?
We must have for affordable housing 30 years.
Okay, so on those projects, let's talk about those projects. On this particular project that you presented, that you have all the approvals already, what is your funding? How much of the money that is going into this particular project is coming from you?
You mean the equity,
Anything,
our equity?
anything, any kind of funding that you
Ron,
are.
what equity are we showing on the pro formas from the?
Yes, the pro forma has a developer fee that is deferred, is the normal equity in a tax credit deal.
How much is that?
This one, I believe, is about $1.5 million or so. I don't have it in front of me here.
How much is the total project again?
I think it's about 35 million.
Okay, so you put
Tax credit deals have a lot of deferred benefits. In other words, you're entitled to a developer fee once you complete the project, rent it up and stabilize it. But there's more equity that's deferred under the tax credit program in a long-term payout, generally up to 15 years.
pretty much what you're telling me, and you're putting out $1 million from your own money, from your pocket, to a 35 more or less $1 million project.
And that is typical for affordable housing.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing with that.
Okay.
I'm just making a statement. That's what's happening. Okay.
Mhm.
Usually on the pilots that we have been involved, I've been involved in 2 pilots, and we have rejected at least 2 or 3 more on my time that I've been in this chair. The pilots that have been involved, it has a community involvement, not as a community for the building, but more like a benefit to the community besides of what you actually do. You mentioned Ginsburg. So on that particular project, it was not just the building. He got a pilot of about 7 years in one of the lots, and then another was 7 or 10 years in the other one, more or less. But we got a park, we got additional improvement to the site, we got all these things. The other pilot that the board approved is 30 Water Street, and also has components that benefit the surrounding neighborhood.
Mhm.
So on your particular project, are you guys doing anything besides your site?
Example, what's your example? A park? Are we building a park?
Are you're doing something to a park, you're doing something to the road, you do paving this, you're fixing the sidewalks that is around your
Yes.
the neighborhood. So
Yes.
what is that you
We are
actually doing?
reconstructing and building a sidewalk from one side of our project area, and we're extending beyond our project area down the second block towards the riverfront. So we're doing that's our capital project, which we're going to be rebuilding all of the sidewalks and the crosswalks. And your engineer is familiar with that because he requested it. And we're going to be rebuilding that area going down beyond our project as a community benefit. In addition, we're putting up very, very expensive landscape to the rear of this project in order to give the residents to the rear of the project, or in this case, to the south, to give them a buffer. Lighting as well. We're adding new lighting in that corridor from our project, from one side, from Watson all the way down beyond that to the second block. Happy to show you on the site plan the improvements we'll be making.
He doesn't really need to do that. Karen, you can just have our own engineers, right? Tell us what is being done beyond the site, landscaping. I think EAC has a whole set of all the landscaping stuff that can
So-
be used. So all of this can be
Yeah.
given to us.
So, and I can find it in our website
Yeah.
too. It's not a big deal. So I guess for now, I'm gonna ask my last question because I can go all night on this particular topics. But you said that with this pilot program,
Mhm.
you have nothing. You won't be able to build anything.
Absolutely.
Okay, so actually, I'm gonna ask one quick question, but that's at the end for Ron. So you came in front of us for a 30-year pilot.
Mhm.
We're gonna analyze these numbers. Staff is gonna analyze the numbers. We're gonna come back. It's gonna be at probably one or two other meetings. I don't know how many more meetings
Okay.
we may have. But at that point, we can come back with something else. So you tell me if we can come back with something else different from what you are asking, you're gonna tell us, you're gonna tell the community pretty much, yeah, this project's not gonna go anywhere.
The way it looks right now, given the numbers we have, Ron, you can jump in. Is there room for increased taxes on this project?
Not unless there's more money from the state of New York Housing Finance Agency, it won't work. No, it won't be feasible because, as I said in the beginning of the presentation, the rents are structured, the rents only go up so much per year. The expenses are, as you guys know, it's an expensive building to run. So in other words, there would have to be another source to lower the mortgage amount because the mortgage is a must-pay mortgage. The first mortgage is a bond finance 30-year mortgage, state of New York Housing Finance Agency has to be paid. So if you have more taxes, you're jeopardizing the cash flow and the debt service coverage, which has to be a minimum of 1.15 to $1, profit over dollars to make sure that the mortgage is paid timely basis for 30 years. So if there's more taxes paid, another source has to be found in order to lower the mortgage in order to pay for the taxes.
Okay.
And by the way, somebody mentioned about affordable housing needing a pilot. There's no affordable housing, in my knowledge, built without a pilot or tax exemption in New York City. New York City has tax exemptions on the books, but it's a very difficult proposition to build any affordable housing that's structured with a 30-year regulatory agreement without a tax benefit. The numbers don't work.
I think that's
That's-
actually what was said, and we don't look at New York City. We actually don't look at Yonkers either, although it's Westchester. Yonkers is a huge city with its own structures. We try to do apples to apples. We're a village, comparing us to New Rochelle, White Plains and all that. While interesting and helpful to understand that you've been around, which is very, very, I'll add a third very important to us, because I personally have not been happy with developers who come in and we're like the guinea pigs for them because they inherited some money. We really need developers that are highly experienced, backed by the county, backed by other government entities.
Just
You have
point.
one more? I
Just
thought we
one.
were,
No,
okay.
I said I have a quick, not really a question, but
Okay,
more
go
a point
ahead.
of clarification. And this is for Ron. When he was doing the presentation, one thing that he said, and I just want to make sure that it's clarified in here, is that the IDA already approved this pilot. So I want to be very clear. The village board will approve a pilot.
Yeah.
And it will send that over to them, whatever pilot we come up with, if we come up with something, and then we send it over to White Plains.
Yeah.
That's
Can
my
I-
understanding.
Yeah, this is.
Okay, so
really-
Bridget, thank you. I was just
Yeah.
going to, I thought that Manny was done. I was just going to say, we're happy that you're here, and I was just going to turn, so thanks for the segue.
Yes.
I'd really like to hear from you. You have
Great.
tremendous experience, so
Great.
share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Bridget Gibbons, Director of Economic Development for Westchester County. I'm also the Executive Director for the Westchester County IDA. I'm not on the board, I'm the Executive Director. Our standard process when we get an application from a developer is that the first thing we do is send off the application to our economic consultant, Camoin, and they do a cost benefit analysis to determine if this is a good use, this project is a good use of the foregone taxes that the county would be, undertaking if we were to provide benefits to this project. This project did go through the cost benefit analysis. We received that analysis on September 14th. The next step is that we voted to induce this project. An inducement just means that the project can continue along. The county IDA makes no commitment. It's not a contract. It's nothing of the sort. It is just the project has the approval of the IDA to continue. We play no role in the pilots. We, as the county IDA, defer completely to the municipality to work out those details. Once the pilot is finalized, we are presented with the final agreement, and then that does get included in the closing documentation for the project. We do not play a role in the pilot. We have a good neighbor policy where we always coordinate with the municipality. We would not approve a project if it was not approved by the municipality. And we are supportive of this project. We think it is, from a cost benefit analysis for the county, it is a good project. But we will be working closely with the village, and we defer to the village in terms of what is appropriate. What's the appropriate project? And we support the village.
Great. You sort of took my entire ending
Sorry.
right away from me. I think that actually makes it very clear. Again, a lot of this, we speak for constituents. That's like our role. Everybody has their role that sits around this table. The county, it still surprises me how people assume that, a village reports to the town reports to the county reports to the state reports to federal. That's actually exactly the opposite. Nobody reports to anybody. It's all different entities. We have, over the past number of years, really built great relationships with other government entities, and this will be no different. This will be partnership. We will get advice from the county. The county will contact us and ask questions if they want to. Everybody will do exactly what they're supposed to, and the developer will do what you're supposed to in your experience. So this is all great stuff. This has got a lot of check marks for this village. That being said, it will not stop all 5 people individually and together from asking lots of tough questions. There is no anger here. There is simply questions, clarity, and our ability to do the best we can for our constituents. And I think the reason that Trustee Casado was talking about the other pieces is because there was a mention somewhere in the presentation, or it may have been actually from Ron, but somewhere it was said, well, this is how some of these things work. My experience is that they all work just a little bit differently, and they should work a little bit differently. You've got affordable, you've got mixed, you've got by the waterfront, you've got uptown and downtown, across town, on a hill, below a hill. They're all different. And so they should be tailored to exactly the neighborhood they're in. And they should include the neighbors, and it should include the business, which is why I ask, because I'll be getting calls. Well, nobody talked to me, so I got to be able to answer. We all will. And as it progresses, we have to have answers. So I expect this to be a journey, not a one-time event, and that's normal. And I expect our committees to ask all the right questions and the staff to be on top of every inch of this. At the end of the day, everything that we've done, whether it's affordable with pilots, there has always been discussions, just to be clear, not just about the footprint you're on, but the effect that you have on the surrounding community, the neighborhood, wherever you're at. You're going to get more of that. You're going to get more questions about, well, how about doing this and how about doing that? That's called the trustees doing their job. That's all it is. And we are going to be calling the county because they are involved, although, as was just clearly stated, there's difference between involvement and decision-making. I think we've covered it. I don't want to take everybody's time to such a great extent. This has been
Right. No, no, I
This
just,
has been really helpful. I just want to close this up because it's
no, I
just
just,
getting
and
late.
that's fine. I just want to make a comment on this, just for, in the past, how we done things, and you can do whatever you wish. There's other entities, taxation entities. We have the library, we have the town board, and we have the school board. Usually, we have asked them to go and do this presentation to them to let them know, because if we do a pilot, obviously there's some taxes involved. So my recommendation will be for you to do that. If you want to do that, that's fine. If you don't want to do that, that's fine either.
So
But
it's not a requirement.
No, it's not a requirement.
I think that trustee Quezada is simply saying that Martin Ginsburg did actually do some of that, but Martin Ginsburg also built market rate. I get it. He also.
Different project, really
I-
different
I
project.
said it right away. Everybody's different. Everybody's supposed to be different.
Mhm.
That's okay. So a recommendation, not a requirement in
Mhm.
front of, I just don't want it to be read like we asked and he didn't do it. It's not fair to him. That's not. It's
I
only
will,
a suggestion.
just in
from a
closing,
trustee.
Mayor, if I could, I understand it needs to be a process. I will also tell you that you get into the queue with the state
Mhm.
at certain times. So time is of the essence if we want to begin construction sometime this year. Otherwise, this will be throughout. There's such a backlog at the state level, so you understand. There's a tremendous backlog at the state level because our project in Yonkers, we applied for a year and a half ago, and our closing is in June. So what I'm saying to you is that if we want to see this move forward, I can't move forward without having a pilot agreement in place. So just be mindful of the timing of this. Very important.
Okay. And I heard you. I just
Okay,
could have been done a month and a half ago.
okay. But we are where we
Turn it
are.
out. So
We are where we are.
That's not our fault. But I'm going to let the village manager, because as you know, this is the village manager is the full-time with the expertise. Do me a favor, also call Jackie at IFCA, because I'd like to understand their role. We like IFCA. We do a lot with them, so that's a good thing. But just the role about all that other stuff, I wasn't clear about that list. Just ask. I don't want all of us calling her. I think you can do it.
I'll-
But you want to just end this with a
I just
comment
want to,
statement?
I just want to clarify one thing. You had mentioned, I just want to make sure what I'm reading and what you said about the number of people, because I think that will be something that people maybe hear in the presentation. You set up to 180
Mhm.
residents. It seems high for for a mix of studios and one bedrooms though.
Mhm.
So do you want to reframe that? Because I think that
Well,
will be.
I would say that, listen, I don't think we're that far off. That's not
Okay,
a gross
just wanna-
exaggeration. I think somewhere between 150 and 180 is
Okay,
a
I
reasonable.
just wanted to make sure
number of
because it
people.
maybe sounded like there were, initially, we were talking about more two bedrooms in the mix. So I just wanted to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thanks for coming. I appreciate
Our pleasure.
your time. Ron, thank you for coming. Bridget, you are welcome.
Thank you.
to Stay for the rest of our meeting, but only if you want to. And thank you for joining us. Most people don't stay, so.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you
All right.
very much.
thank
evening.
you
Thank you.
all.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Next on the agenda.
Next on the agenda. So moving on to other issues of sustainability. As you know, we're working on installing a solar roof at the central garage at the Op Center. But our train station canopy is also getting underway. So I'd like to turn it over to Assistant Village Manager Maddie Zahach to bring you up to speed on our plans for a solar canopy at the train station.
Thank you, sir. Doesn't sound like it's on.
It does not.
Okay. Hold on. You want to come sit here? You want to take this one? Well, this one works.
How about that? Better? Okay. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Mayor, member of the board.
Everybody's here.
Good evening. So as Karen mentioned, we are very excited about our next group of guests. Back in 2019, the Village of Ossining had participated in a request for proposal for solar sites on municipal buildings through the New York Power Authority, or NYPA. It was a little bit of a lengthy process, in large part due to COVID. We are well underway with the project at the Operations Center, which is a much smaller project than the one that you're about to hear about. So I would like to introduce David Eisenbud and Jackie Bruce from DSD, as well as Benjamin from the New York Power Authority. We've been meeting with these folks for a bit. Stuart has gotten to take a look at some lease agreements and things of that nature. So we're moving on a couple of parallel tracks here, but really why we wanted to invite David, Jackie, and Ben tonight was to give the board an idea about what this project is going to look like, as well as who they are, what they've done before, and what they're proposing to do for us. So David, are you going to be sharing the screen?
I am. I have a short slide deck to run through and certainly take the time to answer questions and make sure that everyone is covered with regard to what is being proposed and what it looks like. I do have Jackie Bruce on my team. She's the project development manager, who's kind of lock-armed with me on the front end here to walk through all the issues that we're going to need to dot I's and cross T's with, so everyone knows what we're doing and it's all within code, et cetera. And Ben Kuzo from NYPA is on, who's, Ben, you can introduce yourself, but leading the program or the charge at NYPA for some of this deployment that's going through the county, among other things. So we also, maybe in the audience, you might find Leo Wiegman, who's from Sustainable Westchester, and they're a partner along with Carmen Santos. But let me go ahead and share my screen. Tell me as we get that up if you can see it.
We can see it.
All right, and I'm just going to go full screen. Perfect, it works. All right, technology, beautiful thing. So I am David Eisenbud with DSD. I'm in the origination team working at the front end of our business. I'll tell you a little bit about DSD in a moment. But I've been doing solar development for commercial, industrial, and municipal and public sector for 22 years, predominantly in the Northeast region, with some national and international development projects that have gone through in my career. And this is what I love to do. I do this throughout my day, and I have got a great team at DSD beyond Jackie who really lean in to make these projects happen, look great, work great, and deliver benefits to users. So as was mentioned by Maddie, we did participate in a NYPA request for proposal that was issued. And that did come through as an opportunity to look at sites throughout Westchester County for rooftops, ground areas, and parking lots for canopies. And DSD was selected as one of the qualified firms to focus on canopies and ground mount projects on the larger end of the spectrum to participate in and convert some of the benefits of New York State under the NYSERDA program to bring renewables into operation to help the state meet its RPS goals. So there's just a real structure around the policy that has led to programming that are bringing projects forward for the benefit of communities and citizens of Westchester County and New York State. So in parallel with the RFP, Sustainable Westchester was brought in to support the component of the project that involves subscriptions and bringing a financial benefit to subscribers of community solar projects as they're built and put into operation. So we're thrilled to be working with Leo and Carmen at Sustainable Westchester to go into the community, find the right participants, subscribe them, and manage those subscriptions to the solar project once it's operational. And I can answer questions, or we can come back and address questions around that component of the project. DSD came out of GE. We were formed as GE Solar early in 2012, 2013 to look at solar as a service. And we grew within GE up in Schenectady, bringing projects within GE and then doing projects for corporate and communities in the region to the Northeast. The most noteworthy being Schenectady County and a consortium of municipalities that served as host for about 40 megawatts of community solar that has been operating for a number of years now. In 2019, we realized we had a business capital need and we were growing very rapidly in a direction that was slightly different than GE conglomerate and the manufacturer. So we went to market and brought in BlackRock Real Assets and BlackRock to take the platform, invest in us as a team of people and our resources to bring more projects through development and into operation, and have those projects stay with BlackRock under the Real Assets Group to own and operate long-term. And it was just a very good matchup of giving that capability to our team to enable projects. And since 2019, we have deployed over $1 billion of capital into projects throughout the country. All of these are mostly behind the meter, but some community solar assets in the commercial, industrial, and municipal and public sectors. So quite a strong backing, and we're about 240 people at this point. We've grown tremendously, and we've got another stage of growth that we're looking at going into 2023 and beyond. Well, here we are in 2023. So those installations have kind of percolated across the coasts for the most part. We have a presence on teammates throughout the country, but here in New York, we've got a very strong group of project developers. Our finance team and underwriting sits in New York City. Our executives, our asset management, our office operations and admin sits in Schenectady. That's our headquarters. And construction team are dispersed through the country, but many in the New York region. So quite a bit of teammates in the area to come and support the effort at the Village of Ossining. We also do battery storage. It's not contemplated for this project, but our capabilities are fairly broad, including EV chargers. So we were selected by NYPA because we do canopies really well. We struck a canopy team while we were at GE in Schenectady to look at R&D and do some things differently than the industry was bringing to market. That's led to some real innovation in how canopies are designed, how they're deployed, and how they operate. And I'll kind of touch on that a little bit. Primarily the water management, how snow is managed on the canopy. And these are long-term assets that we build. In the upper right, you see that's Longview Lion, I think that's Lion Place in White Plains. And on the lower left, you see Shapham Garage in White Plains as well, part of a portfolio that we did. On the lower right, that's about 7 megawatts in White Plains. On the right, you have a variety of projects for Connecticut State colleges and universities, a good client. And on the upper left, a garage top in Englewood Cliffs at the LG Platinum, Lead Platinum headquarters that they built recently. So it all starts with design and thinking how to put a canopy in place that's going to function well. It's part of the built environment. It does shade cars and protects from elements, but we know it's not just a structure to put solar modules. You've got to think about how it comes together and how it performs. And we've done that with a water management system that kind of collects and funnels the water to the right points on a property for surface lots, for garages, to existing drains. We don't take shortcuts. We know that beneath the surface, the engineering matters most, and we'll do the necessary work to design the proper foundations and the footings to host the vertical support columns and the crossbars so that we're in compliance with all the codes, and we build something that has a 35+ year lifespan. That's what we underwrite to as part of our underwriting process. And we've got clean finishes, lighting that's at or better lumens than what you see currently in the lot or at the sites. That's all underneath canopy. The clearance is typically 14 feet to allow for all vehicles, emergency vehicles included. That's DOT bridge standard. And we'll show some renders next. A couple of great clients include White Plains, the source at White Plains, some real estate firms and properties, Home Depot and IKEA, launching canopies and rooftops. So just a great experience bringing some innovation to market using parking lots, which should be solar power plants and deliver other benefits. So with that background, I'd like to show a few renders. So we're looking at the train station lot. It's a unique site. It's kind of configured at the base of the hill in the village, next to the railroad tracks. There are a number of interesting constraints that we've designed around, one being setback and power that runs parallel with the tracks, two being some of the drainage features that run to the north of the property. So we've looked at all of that, and we have a configuration in 2 canopies that deliver about 0.5 megawatt, 500 kilowatts DC, 468 there, and about 395 kilowatts AC. It's a good size to bring into the community solar program. It gives us a bunch of subscriptions that we can bring to market through Sustainable Westchester. We have options for integrating EV chargers. That discussion's open, but the design that we chose for the lot is what we call W6, and it's 6 modules across, but we wanted to minimize the impact visually of what folks would see from the ground by making the cross beam level with grade. And what we do, we tip the modules at a 5 degree so that we have a low point where we collect the water and a high point where the water or snow would slide from. And it's just a neat way to minimize having a high end and a low end from a monoslope canopy, the typical alternate that you see. So when you look at what that W6 configuration looks like, a view northwest to the Hudson River from the southeast, you can kind of see the undulation of the modules. Another view looking from the southwest, looking northeast from the southwest. This is actually up from the ramp going to the train station. A view heading south. I think that might be one of the last views. So, I'll stop on the views. So in case folks have questions, and we can talk about site impact a little bit. But we've tried to be very sensitive about where we need to put the vertical foundations, and also incorporate feedback from site walk that we did with Paul Prioli and Maddie. You came by, just to incorporate some of the input from knowing that site, and just trying to also hit good coverage, give users, parkers, the ability to get as many spaces under the canopy as possible. So I can pause there for questions.
Are
I
we
just
on
have,
For the question, let me just ask one thing, which is how much longer, so we're past 10 minutes, which is really what we would like presentations
Yeah.
to be. How much longer is this presentation after we ask the questions? How much is your part? How many more pages?
No, I have 2 slides. I just talks
Okay.
about our maintenance and operations and
Great. Okay.
marketing. So it's really a
Great.
discussion at this point.
Okay. Go ahead.
okay, your infrastructure, this will be sizable at 485 kilowatts. Where are you planning to put that infrastructure? There's gonna be multiple points on this, correct?
So there is a collection of all the DC from the modules under the canopy put into inverters. That infrastructure, if I go back here, will propose that it's going to go to a Con Ed pole on the streetscape coming to the ramp to the train station. There's a service line, distribution line there we can tie to through interconnection process that Jackie's going to lead. We're going to get the right permissions that we need, and we'll bring all of that power to Con Ed.
Right, I understand that, but
Yep.
there's all your panels will have their own inverters on them, correct?
Nope, the inverters are going to be mounted under the canopy up high on some of the vertical columns. And we'll take that AC off of the canopy and bury it underground to pads, a pad area that will have switch gear and meter equipment and data acquisition weather equipment that we'll protect and we'll design appropriately. That will form the site at which we bring that power to Con Ed. There's some interaction we need with Con Ed. We need their input to design any further. But conceptually, it would be located on the roadway coming up to the train station. There's a pole there, and we'd make the trench and connect.
Okay, Stuart, maybe it's a question for you. Approval process. Does this have to go through zoning and planning?
No, because it's our.
You need a mic.
I'm sorry. No, trustee Fritchie, because it's on our property, so we would not need that. There may be permits that would have to be pulled.
Correct, yeah.
It's not on.
Again, I will say it again. The answer is it would not require zoning or planning approval. It would require permits.
Okay. And how far along are we with the permit process on this?
We haven't started the permit process yet. We haven't, I have
just-
a draft lease agreement, so we haven't done any of that.
No, they're presenting us, this is new, right?
Yeah, we've been speaking to David and Jackie for some time, but we wanted to make sure that they really understood the constraints of the sites, which is why Paul and I joined them out there, I think in October, maybe, David, if that sounds
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it does.
And so we wanted to make sure that the board got a look at this and made sure that they believed we were headed in the right direction before we went any further.
Okay, yeah, please.
I guess maybe 2 questions and 1. Sorry. Thank you. I was gonna go there all night again. So two good questions. I guess it seems that you visit the site and I don't have how many parking spaces we have underneath those canopies, but I'm assuming we may lose a few of them because of the structural, or not really.
Yeah, the plan is to lose 0 parking.
Got you. Okay, so that answers my question. I guess the other question will be, how many other parking lots are we doing the same system on all of them? No,
Just this one.
I know, it's just been.
Oh, I will mention, trustee Casada, that David and Jackie, and their team were also taking a look at the lot directly across from 30 Water Street, which right now is being used as commuter parking. Besides the fact that we think that there may be at some point, during the tenure of this lease agreement, which I think is 35 years, that there may be potential to have something else on that parking lot. They also had some concerns about the intrusion of the Sing Sing Kill and what that might look like for a system. So we decided to just cut it off right at the end of this parking lot. But this is This is one of 3 sites that we put forth tonight, but the third was the community center roof. And I believe the understanding at the time, and Ben, you might be able to correct me if you remember back that far, or if you were involved, that there were some concerns about the roof of the community center not being suitable, concerns which have since been taken care of in the ensuing 4 years. So,
Structural stability
pardon me?
or structural stability?
I don't recall exactly. Again, this predates me by a
Okay.
bit. So,
No problem.
yep. So we
Um,
can definitely think about it once we're on to the next phase of our community center, and maybe NIPA will open up this opportunity to us again.
Thank you. That's all I
Okay.
have. This is fantastic project. Thank you.
Thanks. So
Thank you.
loving this whole thing, better than I expected to see tonight, larger. I'm loving the collection of water. I have solar panels for years. And I will tell you that although they're angled, unfortunately, what we didn't realize is every time it snows, it freezes, and then we sort of have to look before we run into the garage because the snow accumulates, and because of the heat of the panels, it all falls at the same
Yeah.
time. And it's actually
We,
dangerous. People have gotten
That's
hurt
right.
from, not on my property, but we've read about this. We should have thought about that. Well, the people that install should have explained. So the idea of running off the snow, it's going to be great for commuters when it snows while they're at work, because they'll come, it's all dry. That being said, I heard loud and clear that you did look at that row that's close to the fence, and clearly there are no panels over that row. So I know you looked at it, and obviously there are challenges, or else you would be recommending, I would assume.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if just over the handicap section, there might be a solution, simply because it seems to me that if you're handicapped and parked in the handicap section, it's because it's closest to the elevator or whatever. But it also seems to me that if it's raining or snowing, they would benefit dramatically from having covering.
Yeah. we looked at it, Mayor. Unfortunately, there's a high voltage line that runs parallel to the train tracks. And there is a setback requirement from the rail easement that eliminates that whole nose to curb section of parking in the parking lot.
Okay, so that may be something we should look at, and maybe give people who legitimately have handicap parking, maybe an option to park under, if they have legitimate whatever, and tailor make that for people who have, that maybe is a solution we would have, rather than building solar panels there. But really liking it. We're gonna have to keep in mind that, which I didn't even realize, but where at the end by those buildings, it's actually a street. It's not actually the parking lot, and we may want to make some changes there. So I'm sure you're coordinating any streetscaping. I'm just sure of it. I don't even know why I'm asking, but I feel like
Which,
this needs to be
which
said.
part are you talking about? On the,
Nope, nope. Go back to where you were. You could have stayed where you were.
Wait, go back.
okay, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, right here.
Little terracotta island
Yeah.
here, right? Actually, is that what you're talking about?
No,
there?
beyond that, the white buildings, between the canopy, that's actually a street where Here Cafe, what is it Here Cafe or here in
Yeah.
that building? The little building,
That's a little,
yeah, that's actually a street going, but not behind them, but in front of them is
In
actually a
front of it.
street.
No, no,
Yeah.
yeah, no, but I
Right.
think
It
the
looks like a
canopies-
parking
yeah,
lot, but
there's,
Yeah, but the canopies actually are not. If you go maybe to the aerial view,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna go do. There you go.
right there.
okay,
Yeah.
so that streets, it just feels like the corner, it's probably just the rendering
no,
is
it's just
going
that, yeah.
into the street rather than staying on the parking lot. But you guys went down there, so I'm sure you've thought all this. So anyway, this is great.
if I could, just one more detail.
Yeah.
As we shared with David, I believe, and now has been confirmed, we did get the confirmation from the DRI that we got $850 some odd thousand for streetscaping in that very neighborhood, which may include some bump outs. So this is going to be an iterative process.
Of course.
We're working all together and making sure that we have all that information in hand before we make any concrete decisions.
Yeah, actually, you might include it into that, because on rainy days, if you put in a couple of picnic tables, there would help any business that's serving food for sitting, because they're protected. So all really cool. At some point, we're going to have to just say what this does for the community at large, community in the neighborhood, et cetera, But this is so far, I may not sound like it, but I'm super excited. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, so this is great. This is
All
really
right.
good. Okay, Dana, any questions, comments?
I
can
have a
get two
kind of
more
a dumb
slides.
question. The parking on the west side of the tracks by Engle Park, is that town? I mean, is it, or why are we not considering that? Is that village too?
The strip that's single
Mhm.
cars along the, what did you say, the south side? West side,
Southwest,
yeah, sorry. We were not considering that lot. David, I think we spoke about that when we first met. But I don't recall what the reasoning was. It might be similar to.
It's parallel to curb parking along the street there.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's just, there's no room again with the track setback for the trains and
What
just
about the Angle Park?
structure.
side?
no, David, on the other side, so
When you
not,
cross over the bridge, you make a left, you go down the ramp, there's a whole parking lot there.
right, but you drive through the middle and some of the spaces are perpendicular to the tracks,
Yeah,
but the ones on the other side of the driving lane are perpendicular to the river. And I think trustee White's question is, why were we not considering that row of 100 or so spots? That are
I think
perpendicular to the river?
scale relative to the parcel itself, trying to tie to the Con Ed grid in one project was not economic. This is we suffer from the same interest in economics changes that we've all seen. So we're making this project happen. And, our projects are usually a little larger than this. This is a great project. It will bring amazing visibility to the community and some benefits for covered parking, safe covered parking in the winter. And we really want to see this through with the village and NIPA and Sustainable Westchester. But when you break parcels, it becomes really hard to put small canopies together. And in this case was not feasible.
Everybody's gonna park under these.
Well, it's better to have this than to not have anything on one hand, but you guys should also consider, given the funding that you get from investors, that every river town has a parking lot and they're all challenged to some extent. So if you could do us, then you'll be able to get buy-in from every single river town up and down the train tracks. Just incentive to consider using us as your innovation hub to try out something a little different so that you'll then be able to do this up and down the river. In my opinion, a good investment in our community. That's my PSA for the evening.
Thank you, Mayor.
And all that
That's a beautiful
energy
community.
that's created from the sun going to these panels, that goes into some sort of central grid. It's not just for Ossining, it goes into a big Con Ed pool of energy. Is that right?
That's right. And then it's moved through community solar subscriptions through a financial benefit to subscribers that Sustainable Westchester will help orchestrate and manage for DSD for the life of the project. So subscribers who sign on, no cost to sign on, they will get a discount to the volume of energy they commit to on their bill. And if they don't want to participate anymore, they can roll out. It's a seamless process.
Right, there's right, targeting low income, but so much of solar panels have been done for single home residences, some for businesses. But when you live in apartments, 3 families, whatever, you don't really get, even if you want to participate in this opportunity. This is supposed to allow for a wider range of opportunity for apartments, of which we have 49% of our residences. I don't know about condos and co-ops, but it's supposed to widen the lane of people an opportunity to be involved through subscription to solarization rather than just single home residences. So I think that's
Right.
another benefit to our community relatively directly, I would say, and a good incentive without all these places having to put solar panels. They can subscribe by choice. So I know you've got 2 more slides, but I do
Yeah.
want to ask Deputy is he on? I don't know if the deputy mayor is on to see, because I can only see the presentation. Do you have any questions, Omar?
No, I don't. I'm in full support. I think this is great. No questions for me.
Great. Okay, thank you. Your last.
Thank you,
two,
Deputy
and
Mayor.
I think we're done.
Yep, just an example again, what we do in render is typically what we build. You see the IKEA site in Baltimore that we did a little up close of water management. You see the gutters and the leads bringing that water to where it needs to go in the canopy on the left and on the garage on the right. We'll work on project schedule and coordinate with Maddie and Paul and folks in Ossining to dial that down once we get clear of interconnection permission and the incentive through the NYSERDA program. And ultimately, it leads to amazing community outreach and the ability to broadcast success. We don't broadcast what we don't build. So this is at the end, we like real things, real projects and real successes. So we're excited by this and we'll continue to work with Maddie to bring it to fruition. So thank you very much. I'll stop sharing now and
We'll do it.
it's been
I'm going to ask you a question that
Yeah.
others would have asked. So we do have a large Spanish-speaking community. Could be their primary language, could be their secondary. Your portals, materials, we would appreciate. Normally, we ask if you'll do it in Spanish, but I would just say you were on for the last presentation. We would very much appreciate that it be done bilingually, please. That last slide.
We understand and will comply. And I know that for Sustainable Westchester, they're practiced in reaching out in multiple languages to the communities that they serve.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. And I just had one quick question. When everything's said and everything is 100% ready, how long is the installation of something like this?
Great question. I think permitting designs and whatnot, let's just put that at 6 months or less. When we have notice to mobilize, we're on site usually within a canopy like this within 4 months. And that's not 4 months of closed parking. It's 4 months of project construction with periodic moments. We're going to have drilling and rigging and steel erection, and then other moments where we can contain the areas we're working with. We roll smaller lifts and complete the work that needs to be done to make a place in service with Con Ed and reach commercial operation.
Okay. So more or less, I want to say less than a year.
Absolutely, for on the ground.
Great.
And we'll try and expedite the 6-month development permitting. It's kind of where we're at right now. So Jackie, we got some work to do.
And this is actually for Stuart. So Stuart, 35 years was what I heard was the life of these panels. I am pretty much aware that technology in solar panels has not been really, I guess there's no incentive to change it very much. It looks the same as it has for decades, but my concern is who's liable for any damage? Who's maintaining all these things for how many years? You don't have to answer. I just want to make sure it's
No,
covered.
I have the lease. They maintain.
And after 35 years, what happens?
Well, 35 years is the end of the lease. At that point, I'll go over it again, but
Yeah, we
it's-
need to know 35. 35 is a blink
It's a
of an eye in
20
the life of a municipality.
Yeah, I can clarify that actually. It's a 25-year lease with renewal periods that total 35. DSD takes on all the obligations of maintenance and operations. And at the end of the term, whether it's extended or not, there's a removal obligation. DSD takes the equipment away.
It takes it away or it puts it in.
Or it transfers, there's a transfer mechanism to the village under the terms of the lease, or there's a renewal and you can keep operating. So there are some options at the end of the term.
Okay, and based on recent experiences, if they don't meet their obligation, how do we end the marriage rather than how do they end the marriage?
There are numerous provisions in the lease for termination if there are breaches.
Okay, fabulous.
Just,
Thank
I
you.
have one last question. Underneath the array, because I'm going to presume that we're going to be losing some street lighting down there. Is there lights underneath the array?
There are similar to what you see behind me. We illuminate underneath the canopy with high efficiency LEDs.
Nice.
So, thank you.
Great, good questions though.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay, anybody else? Either on this, I see you bringing the mic closer. Well, thank you, Maddie, as always. thank you folks for attending tonight. We're sorry it ran a little late. And thank you. We're like super excited. I gotta be honest. Now we just have to be very good about explaining to community as this moves forward. Although I think that many people will be appreciative, like a nice sign. This is happening. This is what's coming, website stuff. Otherwise people start seeing things being dug up and all sorts of crazy stuff happens. So this is all good. Thank you.
Well, we
Thank
look
you.
forward to working with the village and reaching resolution and getting through the agreements we need. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
right.
Maddie, I'm looking forward in 35 years from now, you'll be around to renegotiate this.
Thank you, Maddie.
The rest of us aren't.
Stuart and you as well. So just
You and Stuart.
Bye-bye,
Sure
folks.
that the island of Palau is looking for an attorney general, so I'm thinking, why not?
I know, right? Wow. Next up, if you remember, during budget season, we had discussed the fact that our village code doesn't reflect the way we actually assess for overnight hardship parking charges. So we have recommendations for changes to the code, and I am going to turn this over to Assistant Village Manager Maddie Zahuch, who's been working on this with Stuart
Thank you
and our
again,
team.
Karen. So this can be a rather short conversation, I think. So the initial idea of putting this on the agenda tonight is just as what Karen explained when we were going through the budget process for this year and examining the fee schedule. We know that this board has made a priority of looking at the overnight hardship parking program holistically. One of the things that we identified during the budget process was that we wanted to change the fee schedule, a couple different fee changes. One was for a replacement tag, which I believe went from $10 to $25 effective January 1. And again, this is only for the overnight hardship parking. And then the other was the per car fee. So we changed it from, I think it was $80 plus 40 each additional, so long as they were on the same application. We have now changed it due to the amount of oversight that's required to process each car in each application to $85 per car. So it was recommended by our treasurer that we examine the language in the village code to make sure that that reflected the way that we're administering the program. So that was really what we were here for tonight, is just to let you know that we plan to bring forward a local law to make that change. However, because Stuart is such a good doobie, he also went through and found a couple other things in the schedule that we need to clean up in accordance with the local law that we passed at the end of 2022, having to do with various time changes for municipal lots and things of that nature. So again, the schedule, my understanding from Stuart, is not actually subject to the local law changing. It's a cleanup that we have to do just to make sure that the two pieces match. So we're going to do that. Do you have a question?
I have a question for Stuart.
Oh, okay.
So whatever he gets.
Go ahead.
So because there's a couple things, I guess, that will have to happen, and hopefully we don't have to do the second part. So I understand the language on the code.
Right.
Is the language that it may change, or you're proposing to change, is that going to affect the signs on the streets? No.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Thank you.
One thing that we want to do is, the code consists of many schedules in terms of where you can park and hours of parking. That schedule is not consistent with our signage. So we want to basically have, for example, just so that's what we want to do to make everything same. There's also one technical change we have to make with regard to fines, so that it's consistent with what the court does and it's consistent with our code. That's something that actually was brought to my attention by Judge Gasparo. So if we're making the changes in the chapter, we can do it all at the same time.
Yeah, like I said, Stuart's a genius. And so he said, why waste reopening a local law? And let's just make sure there's nothing else in here that needs some tidying up. And so we are working on that. And I will be working to do the schedules, and hopefully Stuart will approve them. And then we will be bringing a draft local law to this board probably next month. So stay tuned. Thank you.
I'm still excited about the last conversation, so.
It's a lot of exciting things, and moving forward. So next we have the Olive Opera House, which had given a presentation to the HPC in December. And they have been referred to the BOT for an awning application. So Jamie, if you could bring over John Fry and Jacqueline as panelists, please. We can go over this with Stuart for the application.
Thank you, Karen. John and Jack will be coming over. Just this was before the HPC, in fact, this week, Monday night. The December presentation was, if you want to call it a pre-app for any terms, but there was a full presentation by John on a Monday night, and the HPC did unanimously grant the certificate of appropriateness. There are a couple of conditions. There are some items that the HPC wanted to see, and as John will explain, those are going to be made available at the planning department for folks to see from the HPC. The HPC actually also requested a tour of the Olive Opera House, and John has indicated that they will be able to make arrangements for that. But right now, John, let me turn it over to you because it's your application.
Thank you. We'll keep it brief because we suspect many of you are familiar with not only the proposals for the Opera House, but the trajectory over the past few months. And we're all very excited about the results of the grant awards. The project is moving forward rapidly at this point through the planning stages into the architecture and design refinements. As Stuart noted, shared, we were informally with the HPC in December and most recently Monday night. There actually have been some developments since Monday night, but they're fairly minor as they relate to this evening's discussion. And I'll scroll through these quickly. The area of the building that we will share or focus on tonight is the northeast corner on Brandreth. You can see in the, first of all, is everyone seeing the screen, my screen share?
Yes.
Okay, so the awning that we're discussing is at the northeast corner on Brandreth, at the multi-purpose entry, really the performing arts entry area. It's in the facsimile location of the original Opera House lobby and stair location. And forgive me because this is a large bundle that's for HPC and planning board. But on the elevations, it's this area.
I need to interrupt here. I need to know what is happening here. Why are we looking at an awning for a building that nothing's been done yet?
Because since the awning is going over village space,
Right,
you are required to grant the permit.
for the awning.
You've granted awnings and permits in the past. That's what this
No, I
is.
understand, but they haven't done anything yet. Shouldn't we be looking at this conversation about an awning once work starts happening? This is a little early in the game to be discussing an awning, isn't it?
No, because the HPC grants the certificate of appropriateness, and then it comes before you to give them the permission to build it.
No, I think what the mayor is saying is because there are different stages that this particular building has to go through the process. Sure, one of them is the HPC, the other one is the Architectural Review Board. So the Architectural Review Board can look at this and maybe make some suggestions that do something different, because that was one of the conditions that was the approval yesterday. Sure. So before all that stuff happens, I think my opinion will be for all those things to happen first and then come back in front of us.
No.
That's my question.
but
So
that-
why are we looking at an awning
No,
as
because
a first step?
Because as with any other awning application in a historic district, it goes to the HPC and then it comes to you. There may be other things that the planning board has to do, but this board's role here is to approve the permit to allow the awning to be over village property. That's what's here now.
Okay, so hold on. So let me ask this differently. Why do we need an entire presentation about an awning if the board simply says, if you need an awning, show me what it looks like and we'll approve it? I'm just not sure why we're looking through this sort of intense presentation over an awning.
I think, well, first of all, the full presentation is really what, as John said, these are the plans before HPC and planning. John is going to be able to cut it down to show you just exactly what the awning is going to be.
John, we just are here, the agenda item is an awning, because here's what's going to happen. This is going to go on the record and people will think that we approved all of this presentation. That's not what we're doing here tonight. There's only one item on the agenda that we need to look at, and it is the only item that we will be discussing, because we're not approving anything else. We're not going to comment on anything else in this presentation. Just the awning, please.
So as we understand the mechanisms, the dimensional overhang onto the public right-of-way sidewalk, 3 feet at one end, 5 feet at the other, is the mechanisms this evening.
Okay, so in layman's terms, for people like me who don't really understand all these things, they're going out 3 feet onto our property, onto the village,
On one side.
Correct.
on one side,
Side, 5 on the other, correct.
5 on the other, which covers, sounds like the whole sidewalk. 5 feet is the entire sidewalk, no?
On one side, yes.
On one side, yes, on
It
the
co-
other side, no.
It's
right.
an angle. It's a.
Right.
No, no, understood. Well,
But the answer is
the whole
correct.
thing is an angle, so,
Answer is correct, and that's why, since it goes over the village's right of way, it requires approval.
right. So Stuart, in your opinion, because that's
Right.
all we're looking at right now.
Right.
Okay. So again, in layman's terms, does this open the door to every other business saying, I'd like to put a canopy to cover the sidewalk in front of my building? Because you've already let somebody else do that.
You consider every other application as it comes before the board. If the board believes and wants to have a smaller canopy or a smaller awning, and I know this was something that was brought up before the HPC, I believe, John, you said at that time that in fact, the size can be cut back, so it does not have to be 3 to 5 feet. But
And that's actually literally the refinement. The only refinement since Monday night is reducing these dimensions.
okay, so
What was it reduced from if it's 5 feet on one side?
It was actually almost 6 feet here and 4.5 feet on the shallow side.
Okay. And so just again, in simple English, why do you need 5 feet? Is it because it looks odd because of the angle, or is there something else I'm missing here?
If I may I scroll back up to,
Sure, show us the building. You see it?
so this is the primary lobby
Mhm.
at the Brandwood Street side. You can see the scale of the lobby. The original marquee was approximately the width of the lobby.
Mhm.
This is where the new entrance vestibule is located. And this is a relatively modest area for groups of people, small groups of people to gather in when there are events. So the notion of awning and marquee at cinemas or multi-purpose performance locations is not unusual. In this instance, it's very modest compared to the size of the uses on the upper floors. One of the reasons we've cut it back here is because there's going to be a new stair atrium on the north end of the building. So we would like to generate as much natural light into that stair atrium.
So that explains the severe angle you have on that. I'm kind of wondering why we have a straight sidewalk and an angled awning. It
Well, it's a
just-
relatively small sidewalk. It's 6 feet 8 inches.
You still have
including
a
the
straight
curve.
sidewalk and an angled awning.
Yeah, the design notion,
It doesn't even look
there's
right.
the parking, the notion is that many people will be parking in this area. And as you approach the theater performing space entrance, this angle is really bent towards this direction. Along with the notion of creating a larger area for people to gather and minimizing it where people aren't gathering.
You're favoring the north side of the awning to be the sign to be seen from the north side versus someone that was standing in the middle of the intersection or at the intersection at the Main Street Deli. They wouldn't see the sign.
Yeah, well, so the renderings, we've taken a close look at that from the Five Corners intersection, as you can see here.
Well, that's that's traditionally been. It's traditionally been the entrance to the performing side. So that makes, and then you've got retail in the front. I
Yeah.
think it's an exciting return to this feeling of having a theater marquee to the downtown. We used to have quite a few. If you look at Open Door in the former Hilliker department store, there is an awning coming off the front of that. Well, that was originally for the department store that covers
Mhm.
a good part of the sidewalk. It's big. So there's a precedent here. That's, I don't know if you would call what they have an awning or an overhang or what you would call it.
But that's in parallel with the sidewalk.
This is
What
an
difference
angle.
does it make if it's in parallel with the sidewalk or not?
This one's not in parallel with the sidewalk.
What do you mean in parallel?
It goes
It's
back on an
angled.
angle.
Why is that, John? Why is it angled?
Well, in the context of neighborhood planning, I'm trying to scroll back and forth in response to where the discussion is going. The primary notion is that the majority of people entering this space are entering it from the parking lots that are north and east.
Right.
And so this angle is really meant to address the bulk of the people entering from this direction. The shallowness of it, though, we do feel like when we've done the three-dimensional studies from the Five Corners, that it does present enough signature, especially for those heading west,
Right.
That it's still meaningful.
Right. My question, Dana, was we set precedents every time we do something, and there are plenty of folks that want to put canopies all the way across the village spot, which is the entirety of a sidewalk, and that actually starts creating problems of unevenness. So every time we make a decision, it sets precedent for others, and that's
Right,
really my whole
yeah.
question, which then started into the angle thing, which I didn't even realize till it was said. But it's really the side road facing where the parking should be for that rather than the main road. I get that.
There's really no other place to put it. It's the entrance to the theater, which is on
Yeah,
the side
well,
of the building.
to be honest with you,
I just want to know why it's on an angle.
yeah, he just thinks it looks weird. That's an angle. That's all. Now we understand their reasoning for it, and that that HBC actually asked that it be reduced as part of their conversation.
They asked if that could be, if
Yeah,
that could
and
be
that's what
done
they
at that
did.
point, because there
Right.
was some question.
Right. Probably similar to this thought process. I think it's really cool. I think it's sort of interesting that we're talking about a canopy when in fact I don't even know what they're putting in this building yet. So there's an assumption of performing arts and that there'll be a line of people and they'll be having to gather outside. And so this covers the people from, I guess, bad weather or whatever. I feel like it's a reverse discussion. Like I'd like to actually see what the building for real will have. But for me, it's fine. I think it sounds totally logical. I'm in support of it. I think that is where people should park and there should be a place, and it's not in the way of the main road and other businesses, and it'll allow them to also be more visible. Otherwise, it looks like a flat brick building. Now it'll look like an entrance to something, whatever that something ends up being. So I think it's pretty cool. but others might have differing opinions. So let's just go around the room and see where we're heading so we can say a yay or nay to this. For me, I'm in support of it. Folks, anybody?
I
Yay,
have
nay?
questions. I
Please,
still have questions. So
please.
thank you, John, for this. So just a couple technical things in my end, at least. Sure. The presentation that is in our agenda, which is the same presentation that was shared on the HPC's link from this past week or this past Monday, is not the presentation that you have in front of us right now.
Right, this has been revised since Monday
I
evening.
understand that. I understand. Again, so for me, for consistency, either we have the latest or we have the one that is shown, because there's a little bit more detail in the presentation that you have, that the stuff that we are looking at here online.
That is correct.
Okay, so the other one, technical portion on my end, maybe we just, on the detail here, you have it awning. Awning definition by itself is more like a fabric. You have it as a marquee. I think we should just keep it as a marquee, because I think that word just, within itself, it sounds even cooler than just an awning. An awning is just something that, fabric that we can put in there. That's just on my end.
Off the mic, but great point.
The other one is, I'm looking at this and please, and I know this is sloping there, but I'm looking at the height. And I don't have a bottom height. So what is the bottom of the marquee to the sidewalk?
As the sidewalk descends to the north, it's 9 foot 5.5 inches. At the minimum, it's 10 foot. About at the center of the lobby entry. And I don't know what it is at the far north end, but I'm guessing it's 11.5 feet above the sidewalk.
So again, that would be helpful, because again, the drawings that we have does not reflect that. What I'm seeing in here is second floor, 6 feet, 10 inches. So thank you for that clarification. So I think we have that. So, and one of the things that I had a concern, and I asked, that's the reason why, one of the questions that I had for Bob is for trucks, because you are so close to the road. Do you think that will be a conflict with having it just maybe about a foot away from the edge of the sidewalk?
Well, that's I think the discussion Monday night was two-part, and that was one of the inferments was, let's back this up off the curb as much as possible, as much as practical, to still provide grouping protection for a grouping of a dozen to 15 people in the front.
Just I guess material wise, if the HPC members, when they review this, I'm assuming it may change a little bit. Sure, they may ask you for something else if they don't think that is appropriate for that. Because I think there was some conversations in regards to that. Obviously, the storefront storefront system that you're putting in, the colors and all the stuff. So there's a couple more steps that it has to follow, I think, on HPC. So in general, in concept, I think I'm in favor of that. Of this, I think is a really nice element to that building. So
Okay. Sir? I'm good. You're good. Are you in support or not in support? Okay, Dana?
I'm in support.
Okay, Omar?
I'm in support.
Okay, then. Stuart? I think we
got
can move to the
instructions.
next
Thank
step.
you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thank
John, we're
you.
looking forward to seeing the rest of the project as it develops.
We're very excited.
Project
We'd
in
love
Mayberry
to.
Village.
We'd love to show everybody through and share an update about the use, how the uses are evolving and being envisioned. And so we're happy to accommodate that.
Great, we'll leave it up to staff to bring this in front of us at the appropriate time, not too early, not too late, just at the right time. Very big stuff. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we've got one more, right? Village manager?
We have two more items.
Oh,
Our next
item also.
item is a cabaret license application for Here Coffee, one of our newest businesses down at the train station.
New solar canopies.
by the new streetscaping area. Actually, it's just even now there's room to throw down there like a picnic table right there to, just like we've done so beautifully in the middle of our village. It just helps people's businesses. Commuters might enjoy it. I don't know. And that neighborhood probably would enjoy also to have another table to sit. So just food for thought. And, okay, we interrupted.
Thank you, Mayor. Jamie, we may either have Stacy Belmont or Dylan Hardman as a participant. I don't know, but if we do, either one can be brought over, please, or both, actually.
I'm trying to bring Stacy over, but there's an issue with it. So, oh, she's here. Okay.
Wonderful.
If you can unmute Stacy, that would be great.
Come on, do it. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Ms. Belmont. Good evening. Folks, this is an application for a cabaret license. Here Coffee had a license, has a license from 2022. As I noted in my note to the board yesterday, the license has been approved by all the departments within the village. The difference in terms of timing is that unlike last year's, the applicants are looking for 7 days a week, and they're looking for the hours of, if I've got it here correctly, until 10 p.m. Noon to 10 p.m. In 2022, it was Thursday, Friday, noon to 8, Saturday, noon to 9. So the difference now would be noon to 10, Monday to Friday. Otherwise, it's the same application as last year. No issues with the police, no issues with the building department, and no issues with the finance department.
And this is within, that sounds really loud. This is within our boundaries where we've done cabaret for others.
Yes, yes. Actually, 10 p.m. would be earlier than we've
I
done
know,
for
but
others.
therefore within the boundaries.
Yes, ma'am.
What they're asking for.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So first of all, thanks for joining us, and good luck with relatively new business. Always nice to see that. Hopefully there'll be, well, I don't know if it's hopefully we'll have more commuters. I'm sure some of the commuters don't want to commute. They want to commute from their living room to their, kitchen. But hoping for the best. And I think you just heard me say when I was down there that another picnic table, if possible, no promises, but if possible, might be of some help. For the commuters, because it's actually in the commuter parking lot. So it's not just for the business, but it's also if people want to just, have bite down
Well,
there.
would they be able to do a parklet next year if we do those?
I don't think there's
Or some sort
room.
of sidewalk cafe?
There's
no
no,
room?
that street is really, in fact, they had asked me if a sidewalk could be considered, because it's actually a street, which I didn't even realize. I've only lived here for almost 30 years and didn't realize that was an actual street. So, nope. But no, there isn't. So something to think about, but that's not what this meeting's about. This is really just about the cabaret.
Anyway,
Yeah, no, but they're on here and.
we're
and
planning your business for you guys, so.
No,
Yeah,
no,
if
we're-
there's no other picnic table, we'll just throw some picnic blankets
Yeah,
out of the little
Well,
courtyard
just-
out there.
Save me a
just-
charcuterie board.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it's, this is the best part of, in my opinion, the job is being able to help people when we can. And not just their business, but it's also others, anybody would be able to use it. It's own public space. So, is anyone have any questions? Does anybody object? Are we all in? What am I looking at?
I'm good.
We're good?
I'm happy that they're actually extending the hours. So yeah, even better.
Great,
Um,
we're good. Dana, yes, no?
Yes.
Good, I'm good. Omar's saying yes. Fabulous. Okay, well, you're the shortest part of our agenda. Thank you for joining us. It's a unanimous yes. But it was not-
Huzzah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
All right,
Thank you.
have a good night.
You too. Okay, what do we got?
So finally, we have
No, so
we have come
sarcasm
to
there. I'm okay with it.
just trying to keep the energy flowing. It's come to the time to move to the public hearing stage for the Civilian Police Complaint Review Board, the CPCRB, proposed local law. So I will have Stuart fill you in, but basically, we would be looking to have a resolution for next week, calling for the public hearing.
Right. Public hearing on the local law would be on February 1 with regard to revisions to Chapter 8 to the Civilian Police Complaint Review Board, which this board has discussed. It's been reviewed by the CPCRB. It's been reviewed by the Police Reform Advisory Committee, a number of different drafts. So we believe we are at the point where now a public hearing can be called for.
Great. I'm going to simply ask the liaison to it, any input, and then we'll take a little round of questions and yay or nay. Sir?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks once again to Corporation Council for your hard work and putting it together, because it's been a long time that we have been working with so many different groups in the community to ensure that this local law reflects all of the different perspectives from community members, folks in the police department, what the Civilian Police Complaint Review Board is working on now and prioritizing, but also how it can be even better in the future. Lots of different perspectives, and I think that this is a really great version that reflects a lot of those priorities. So I'm hoping that this is the final version and we're able to move forward with getting it done.
Oh, final is such a strong word, but
Final. Let's use strong language. Final.
we hope. I'm hoping for that. Anyway, I'm good with it. Everybody else, can I just see? Everybody all right? Public hearing? Okie dokie then.
Thank you,
I
folks.
think we've got direction on that. Anything else? No.
That concludes tonight's program.
That concludes tonight's meeting. It is 9:55. We are going, I believe, into executive session for legal
Matters of personnel.
matters of personnel. So thank you, folks, for joining us. Interesting agenda, lots of different items covered tonight, very enjoyable. And we will see everybody next Wednesday for legislative session, 7:30 PM. And good night.